When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject, Mr. Fishhook. User, GRYX_anon. Posted, August 23, 1997.
My wife Misty and I have experienced a lot of ups and downs since moving to Brattleboro. First, our new house had so many leaks. Our plumber Scott gave us his home number to save his secretary having to keep passing on messages. Next, the lights in the dining room began flashing like an epileptic's nightmare, starting us on an odyssey that took us through 3 different electricians before stopping on its own for no apparent reason. All of that was bad enough, and this was before Mr. Fishhook. In most of the stories I've read, it's the wife who believes in ghosts and the husband who refuses to listen to her when glasses start exploding or they hear moans from the basement. In our situation, it's the opposite. I believe in ghosts and Misty doesn't. Growing up, we lived on the ground floor of a house maybe only a mile away from the state mental hospital. You'd think a mile is far enough away from something like that to avoid feeling creepy, but you would be wrong. My parents would try to time their comings and goings to avoid Gertie, our landlady and upstairs neighbor, because all she would talk about was summoning spirits. She'd lost a son in Vietnam and never really gotten over it. To her, the Ouija board and pendulum were her way of staying in touch with him. Well, that's what she thought at least. Instead, what it did was invite things into the house, and those things sometimes messed with us. The final straw was the time Dad woke up in the morning to find the bed on the opposite side of the room. For the record, their bedroom set was solid mahogany and damn near impossible to move without 2 or 3 of us lending a hand. After that, Dad decided it was time to move on, and our next place was mercifully ghost-free. Since I hadn't had to deal with the spirit world for so long, it took me a while to catch on to the activity in mine and Misty's new house. For instance, when we decided to make use of the little cupboard under the stairs as a place to keep the litter box, the cats refused to go anywhere near it, and we chalked it up to standard feline fussiness. Instead of trying to force the issue, we relocated the box to the bathroom where they were more than happy to go. There were strange smells too, the worst of which was like rotting meat and had us convinced something had died in the walls. Still, we could never narrow down where it was coming from, and it would disappear for days, even weeks at a time, so in our minds, it became another quirk of the house. It was the experience of my wife's little brother Jimmy that finally twigged me onto the possibility there was more going on than bad wiring, dead raccoons, or picky cats. Jimmy was a lot younger than Misty, what you'd call a change of life baby, and on the odd weekend, we'd take him to give her parents a break. His first couple nights in the new house were restless and full of nightmares about someone he called Mr. Fishhook. a man with metal in his mouth who would whisper in Jimmy's ear. No matter where he was in the dream, our house, his house, Yankee Stadium, Mr. Fishhook would be there. He'd never say what the man was whispering, just that it was bad. The nightmares intensified to the point where he started begging his parents not to come over. Prior to this, he hadn't been an excitable kid, and no one in the family seemed to understand why he was suddenly acting this way. I had a feeling, though. One of the seemingly crazy things Gertie used to say was that a lit white candle could be used to detect the presence of what she called the other side. She said if you lit it in a sealed room and asked yes or no questions, the flame would dance in response. Obviously, it wasn't something my parents were ever going to try, but it stuck in my mind, and when Jimmy declared he wasn't coming to our house anymore, that image popped up. Of course, our house was haunted, I thought. How hadn't I thought of this before? Misty had boxes and boxes of white candles around the house. She's a collector, so last Saturday, while she was out for lunch with the girls, I took one and headed up into the empty closet of the spare bedroom. I sat cross-legged on the floor, carefully setting the candle down onto a saucer before lighting it. The stuffy closet now glowed with soft light, and I took a deep breath before asking if there was a spirit present. The candle flame didn't waver at all. Again, I asked if there was a ghost or spirit in the house, adding that if it was in my home, it had to answer my questions. Several seconds passed in which the only sound was the distant whir of the furnace and the beating of my heart. The candle flame stayed steady, undisturbed by other passing drafts or, apparently, my requests. I tried a third and final time, demanding that anything in my house that wasn't me or my wife make itself known immediately. The candle burned on. I let out a sigh and blew it out. With a groan, I stood up, my knees popping, and pushed open the closet door. There, for just a second, stood a pale man, his eye sockets empty and his yawning mouth pierced by what looked like dozens of metal filaments. The stink of him was eye-watering. My blood turned to ice water in my veins, and then he was gone in a blink. I stood there for a moment, frightened and in shock. After I regained the capacity for rational thought, I said to myself, I guess that's Mr. Fishhook. Since Saturday, I haven't seen him again. Frankly, I haven't gone back in that room again. The candle and saucer are still sitting on the floor of the closet, and unless Misty notices them, they're going to be there for a while.
Subject, dump. User, ConFZ18. Posted, May 13th, 1996.
No one remembers exactly when Dump turned up or who dropped him off, but I do remember the first time I saw him. It was after one of those massive rainstorms we get here, when enough water came in through my open window to soak my mattress all the way through. I was working a double when it happened, so by the time I got home and was able to clean up the mess, the goddamn thing had already started to stink. It took me half an hour to lug that mattress down 3 flights of stairs and out to the garbage area in the rear of my building, and the whole time I was trying to remember when it was I opened the window. The humidity here in the Midwest is punishing, so when I'm not at the shop or in the bar, I'm at home, and those windows are closed so my aircon can work its magic. There was no way I'd have opened one, never mind left it open. I was huffing and puffing the ruined bed out the back door when I got my answer. There, sitting on top of a dumpster at the back of the parking lot, was Cord, and the little shit was giggling. Cord was my landlord Edie's kid, and I hated him so much. It seemed like he lived for breaking shit around his mother's building and blaming it on tenants. Lights, windows, doorknobs, other people's bicycles, you name it, and Cord either broke it or tried to steal it. He got away with it every single time, too. Edie either taking him at his word and chastising the poor sap who had his stuff broken for trying to disrupt her home, or just straight up ignoring the situation until it went away. There was some sad sack reason Edie was raising the kid on her own, and at one point I had felt sorry for her, but those days had long passed. Now, I was just disappointed that Dad hadn't drowned the kid like a sack of unwanted kittens on his way out the door. On that particular day, I had zero patience for Cord and his round piggy face. "Hey, fucko." That's what he called everyone. What a kid. "Not now, man," I said, my breath coming hard. "It's not a good day." He giggled again. It was like nails on a chalkboard. "Why? Did someone open your window and pork your stank-ass bed?" Not did I open the window, but someone. Right away, I knew it had been him. He must have used his mother's keys to get in. My vision went red. "You tubby motherfucker." I left the mattress flop down to the wet asphalt and ran at him, but he dropped down from the dumpster and took off at top speed, disappearing around the corner. Say what you will about his overfed ass, but he could move when he wanted to. Even if I hadn't just worked a 16-hour overnight shift, I doubt I'd have caught him. From the distance, I heard him throw back one final loser before he fled to his weekly meeting of the Little Shitheads Club, or wherever it was he'd go when he wasn't ruining someone's life. Out of my mind with completely impotent rage, I spent a few minutes kicking the shit out of my destroyed mattress. Once that demon was exorcised, I bent down to pick it up again and finished dragging it to the dumpster when I noticed there were two of them instead of the usual one. The normal dumpster, full to overflowing, was in its normal spot near the back of the building. The dumpster the kid had been sitting on was new, its black metal shining bright except for where some genius tagger had spray painted a rainbow cloud across the front, on top of which was the word dump in block letters. It irked the hell out of me that people had overflowed the main dumpster instead of taking the extra 2 minutes to walk it across to the new one. Just because we live in a sty doesn't mean we have to act like pigs. A few minutes later, I heaved the bed into dump with one final grunt and closed the lid. I hadn't expected the whole thing to fit in there, but it was a nice surprise on a day that had previously been full of bad ones. I even whistled a little bit on my way back upstairs. It came to be that whenever I took out the trash, I'd toss it into dump. No matter how full the other dumpster was, dump was completely empty. I didn't know whether this was some new garbage collection outfit looking to edge out the competition or what, but it was alright by me. I even talked to dump while I was out there. I didn't know why, but I got a kick out of the whole situation. "Got another one for you, dump," I'd say before tossing in my bags or boxes or whatever it was. It was outrageously gratifying. In the fall, my buddy Jason was in a bad wreck just off the highway. He was fine, but his truck was totaled, and it was going to be a couple days before the insurance got him a courtesy car, so I lent him my Ranger. I told work I'd come down with the flu and was going to be taking some of those sick days the union had worked so hard to get for us, and put my feet up so I could get some serious smoking done. My best guess is that Cord knew which truck was mine, and when he didn't see it there, assumed I was at work. I was deep into a pack of Marlboros and a stack of movie rentals when I heard a key working at my front door. I turned to look just in time to see that little bastard walk in carrying a can of red paint. Red paint. What was that little psycho going to do with a can of red paint? As soon as he saw me, he stopped in his tracks, and you could see the little hamster wheel spinning behind his eyes. A second later, he dropped the paint can and booked it. Naturally, as soon as the paint can hit the hardwood floor, its top popped off and a gout of red paint bloomed out with my work boots and jacket squarely in the blast zone. I was up and out of that chair almost before there was time for it to splash down. Cord might have been a runner, but he couldn't do stairs for shit, and I closed the gap fast, getting to within arm's reach of him by the bottom step. The back door had been propped open, giving him an edge that kept him out of my reach, and once we got outside, I knew I'd lost him. But no, God was smiling on me that day because the garbage truck was blocking the driveway. He couldn't scooch around the edges of it either, meaning the little bastard was mine. I can't tell you how good it was closing in again when he broke away in the direction of dump and I gave chase. Whether out of desperation or some dumbass plan that made sense in his own head, he actually jumped up to the open side of the dumpster and pulled himself inside, his keds flashing up in the air as he went ass over tea kettle and disappeared out of sight. I heard a metallic thump and the kid saying, "Ow." Good, I hope it hurt. When I got there, I banged hard on the front of dump, letting Cord enjoy a little reverb. "Ow," he shouted again. "Stop it, fucko." Continuing to piss off someone when you're completely at their mercy? This kid was not our best and brightest. I banged on the metal again. "Hey, fuck off, stop that." I shook my head. "Kid, you're real dumb. You know that? Who's the one with red paint all over his apartment, shitbird?" He had me there. "Sure, but who's the one stuck in the dumpster? You got a plan to get out of there?" Silence, followed by the sound of sneakers scuffing against metal as he tried to get some traction. I heard a muttered, "Shit." A second later, there was a lot more kiss ass in his voice than I'd ever heard before. "Hey man, I'm sorry about the paint, okay? It was a prank and I messed up. My mom will take care of it. Just help me get out of here." Ah, sweet victory. "You're goddamn right your mom is gonna take care of it, but I'm not getting you out of there. Hell no. You stew in there a while and think about all the shit you put us through. I'm going back upstairs to watch some TV." It was cool enough outside that he wasn't going to cook or get heat stroke, and I wasn't actually going to leave him there, but I figured 15 minutes or so in the box would give him something to think about. From inside, I heard the little bastard kicking and pounding on the metal, calling me every foul name I'd ever heard, and a few that were new to me. Kudos to him, I'm not easy to surprise. "You motherfucker, when I get out of here, I'm going to tell my mom you touched me. You're going to jail, fucko. Hope you like prison, dick." Prison dick? What kind of shows was this kid watching? Jesus. Well, I decided if I was going to stick around and get him out of there, I was going to need a cigarette. Wanting to let the kid think I was already gone, I tiptoed away from the dump toward the back door and jogged upstairs to get my smokes and lighter. In less than 5 minutes, I was already back down in the parking lot, the nicotine helping me feel a lot more charitable. I went around to the side of the building and got the step stool that Edie used to water the flower pots. Back at dump, I plunked the ladder into place against his side. "All right, Junior, you learn your lesson." Silence. "Don't sulk, kid. No one likes a sore loser." Still nothing. I climbed far enough up the stepladder that I could see inside the dumpster, and the kid was nowhere to be found. Son of a bitch, he got out. I said to no one in particular. Guess we're gonna have to call this one a draw. I climbed back down the ladder and put it away, and when Edie got home from work, I knocked on her door. She was a middle-aged woman with frizzy brown hair and frown lines, probably from raising the kid. "Hi, Greg," she said with a sigh. "What's the matter now?" That poor woman, she knew. She had to know the next word out of my mouth was going to be her son's name. "Cord took your keys and came into my apartment earlier today. I don't know why, but he had a can of red paint and dropped it. It blew up right by the door. Wrecked my work boots and one of my jackets. We had words about it, and he probably told you that. Her shoulders sagged, and I'm fairly sure I saw another few lines sink into her face. No, I haven't seen him yet today, Greg. I'm sorry. I know he's... She trailed off, looking lost. For the first time in a long time, I actually felt sorry for her again. Hey, Edie, don't worry about it for now. I've got another pair of boots and I can probably still wear the jacket for work. The guys might ride me a bit, but I can take it. Her lips pressed into a thin smile. Thanks, Greg, but I can't let him get away with it like that. I do too much of that as it is. This is too much even for him. That's basically breaking and entering. I'll talk to him. Sorry about the trouble. I didn't see her again until the next morning when she knocked on my door looking frantic. Cord hadn't come home the night before, she said. A first. I felt a chill run up my spine. When did you see him last, Greg? I hesitated. Yesterday afternoon, after I gestured at the red streaks on the floor and walls. She winced. Right, I know you said you talked. Did he say where he was going? He didn't, Edie. I'm sorry. She fretted for a moment, then nodded. Okay, Greg, thank you. If you hear from him, I'll tell him to come right home. She nodded, her face a mask of concern. I was just about to close the door when a thought came to me. Edie, come to think of it, I might have seen him playing around that new dumpster. She looked at me as if through a fog. New dumpster? Yeah, at the far end of the parking lot. It's got the spray paint on it. I thought you had put it there. Edie shook her head impatiently. No, I don't know anything about that. I'll look into it later, okay? Sure, Edie, it's not a big deal. I just thought I should mention he was over there. She thanked me again and started knocking on the door across the hall. I gently closed the door.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.